Third question of the evening. As Republicans, all of you either favor a reduction in or holding the line with regard to taxes as a means for encouraging economic development. We don't really want to focus on that part right now. Instead, let's talk about the role that public investment plays in economic development. Right now, you're seated in a community college that is part of a major success story over the past decade. Would you favor further investment of taxpayer dollars to help the community college system grow? And what other public investments might be vital to economic growth in your minds? We'll start with Mr. Jacobson.
It's a great question. The way you put it is, I think, backwards. We need to focus on what the customers, what the companies need, and then decide what investments we need to make. Certainly, we have to have a world-class workforce. And I think the community college system has done a much better job than the university system has at connecting the product with our emerging, our existing businesses. But we need to focus on the businesses and what they need, and then we make investments based on their needs, not based on what we think we want, and see if that fits a customer. And that's kind of how we've done economic development in Maine. We find out when the fire, when the plant closes, and then we go to the business and see, what we can do to put the people on some sort of health insurance, some sort of unemployment insurance. We ought to look very focused at the needs of our potential customers and worry about investment after we define what they want.
Mr. LePage?
Yeah, I do favor higher education, and I'm a big fan of the community college and the university system. As a matter of fact, at Martin's we've established a major fund for the community college students in the state of Maine. However, I'll go back and say that before you can invest further into the infrastructure of the university system, we've got to make sure that we get our fiscal house in order. And right now, I don't believe that it is wise to further increase the debt on Maine people for the purpose of expanding the state. It's just unrealistic to think that we can become prosperous by more debt.
Mr. Mills?
At a macro level, state economics are pretty simple. We have two major pillars of cost. We have the human services component, which includes Medicaid, the care of dependent populations, and then we have education, K through 12, and the higher education components. They are roughly equal, and the challenge, frankly, is how do you save money, reduce costs in the human services arena so that you can afford to spend more on education and things which spell growth and mark progress for our future. So I think that's the governor's big challenge. How do you gain efficiencies in the delivery of required human services while in order to spring forth the money, the resources you need for things that spell growth for us. The community colleges have done a very good job of managing their market, and there's a lot of confidence in them. The university is undergoing turmoil right now, and I think they'll come through it well.
Mr. Otten.
Well, I think the most important thing that we can do is recognize that our university system needs to start teaching our kids the jobs of the future, not the jobs of the past. And I think we have to look around at some of the things that we're doing well and do more of them, and the things that we're not doing as well and cut it back. I'll give you two examples. I see Habib Deeger here tonight. The Wood Lab at the University of Maine in Orono is probably the most advanced in the world. Maine has some of the best slow-growing fiber in the world, and there's more fiber growing in Maine there has been in 100 years. We need to redouble and maybe triple our efforts in the use of wood fiber. At the same time, at the University of Southern Maine, we graduate about 200 kids a year from the state of Maine in sports marketing. Over a 10-year period of time, that's 2,000 sports marketing degrees. There aren't 2,000 sports marketing jobs in Maine. So it's priorities, and let's be intelligent about those priorities, and I think we can do a lot more with what we're working with.
Mr. Abbott.
It's critically important that we look at our community college and our state university system and find opportunities to save money there, because those two entities are going to be the core of our economic development in the future. I support public investment in research and development. I think that's the only way we can compete in Maine, and the only way we can compete in America is if we continue to lead the world in research and development. I also support investment in infrastructure, and I think research and development, our higher education, and our infrastructure are going to be the keys to our economic future. I will tell you that in 1975, the state of Maine used to spend 18% of its general fund money on higher education. We now spend 9%. We can't compete with the Chinese like that. We've got to be able to innovate if we're going to win.
Mr. Beardsley, go ahead.
The University of Maine is a land-grant university, and it ought to be independent of all other universities, much like the University of Vermont. I don't believe there should be 2 public campuses in any metropolitan area. I would close down the campus over at the airport. I would take the funds from that, build an endowment for scholarships. I'd move everybody onto a single campus, which would be Eastern Maine Community College. We have a propensity in Maine to do fields of dreams, build all the social infrastructure, and they'll come. I think what you do is you go to the industry the way they do in Ireland, find out specifically what it is, and then you target your state investments to that particular industry. Such as with Chimbro, it would be welding. We should be asking Domtar what it is they need and find out with Washington County Community College. It should be very, very targeted. We don't have enough money to continue this social overhead capital approach versus direct productive activity strategy for Maine.